Welcome to the Epic View. This year we're starting something new. It's going to be a talk show that spotlights some of our great staff members throughout the school district and really cool things happening here each and every day for all of our students. The name Epic View started from our new mission statement, which is "We are Epic," which means we engage, we prepare, we inspire, and we challenge. And today, our first three guests are here with us. So to start, I like to put people on the spot. So anytime you come on the Epic View, you have to know you're going to be put on the spot. I would like you to tell us who you are, first of all, and an interesting fact about yourself.
Well, I am Jen Johnson. I'm the principal at Clear Creek Elementary. And one interesting fact about me is that I'm an avid runner. I've actually completed 2 marathons in my life.
My name is Tara Hunter, and I am the proud principal of Dennis Elementary. And one interesting fact about myself is that I actually started my teaching career out in Long Beach, California.
Long Beach. And last but not least, Miss Stacy.
Hi, I'm Diane Stacy, the principal at 5 Points Elementary. And one interesting fact about me is that I've been a piano player all my whole life. And from the time I was about 13 until in my late teens, I played in a rock and roll band, believe that or not.
You played in a rock and roll band?
I did. Yes.
Now that's an interesting fact. Do you have any videos from when you played in the rock and roll band?
They didn't have video cameras back then.
Yeah, right. Okay, today what we'd like to talk about is we'd like to spotlight some of the great things happening in the buildings. And one of the things I get a lot of questions about is our literacy block, particularly what do we do for spelling? But let's start with our literacy block and talk a little bit about what is it that we do to tie everything together in the area of literacy.
Well, a literacy block is actually a designated time during the instructional day where teachers teach all the literacy foundation pieces, such as guided reading, word work. They also include writing, independent reading, and working on independent skills that accompany reading. All of those skills together are put together in what we call a literacy block. During 120 minutes during the day.
120 minutes a day. So, for example, give me an idea of how would that look at Dennis Elementary?
Sure. So as Mrs. Stacy indicated, all of our language arts teachers have what we refer to as a 120-minute literacy block, where they focus on guided reading, which is where teachers coach students independently through text and comprehension. They spend time working on words and identifying patterns and what we call word study. And they also focus on writing instruction as well, where we pull out those wonderful 6 traits of writing to help our students compose written pieces. And then lastly, they also spend time working on grammar skills.
Yeah, I know the other day when I was in your building, you were doing the morning announcements, talking about writing. That was pretty powerful. That was cool. And I was walking through the halls and the kids were in the classrooms talking about it. That was neat. That was neat. So at the Early Learning Center, how does this look a little bit different perhaps than what happens at the elementary buildings?
Sure, it looks a little different with kindergarten and preschool. First grade looks very similar to what Mrs. Hunter described because we have that time. In kindergarten and preschool, however, since we're only a half-day program, we sort of have to minimize our minutes because we don't have as long. And so a lot of our literacy instruction at the kindergarten level is obviously basic foundational skills, learning their letters, learning their sounds, learning how to segment and blend those words. So we focus a lot of time on that at the kindergarten level. We also have to help students to understand how to do school. It's really hard for a teacher to pull over a guided reading group the 2nd or 3rd week of school because our kindergartners are not quite independent yet. So we spend a lot more time building up their stamina and their independence to be able to work by themselves while a teacher can call over students to work on word work or guided reading and things of that nature. But our skills are the same, our focus is the same. Obviously we want to grow our students in reading and writing. I think that at our level we see those students blossom very early independently with their reading and with their writing. Hopefully those stair steps help as they move into 1st grade, 2nd grade, and 3rd grade.
So in hearing about this, I know we do a couple of assessments and they're short, brief assessments. But when you talked about guided reading, that's basically putting kids in a group based on how they read. So in order for us to know where the kids are at or their proximity of what they can do on their own, what type of assessments do we do from kindergarten through 5th grade to identify where our kids are at?
Well, we start with the Next Steps guided reading. We use that tool And our teachers at the beginning of every school year and at the end of every school year determine where the students are by doing a running record where students read orally for the teacher, and the teacher also jots down notes of maybe their inconsistencies in word calling and also in their comprehension. And comprehension, by the time you get to our buildings, is a very, very big part of the literacy block. So it allows a teacher to see at what level, A to Z, these kids would be scoring, and at what level they would be ready to receive instruction at their level.
Just to tag onto that a little bit, the next step guided reading has 4 components that we look at. The running record, which is what Mrs. Stacy is referring to. There's also a listening comprehension piece, so we see their oral comprehension piece of it. There's also an interest inventory, so that our teachers can pull books that will interest maybe some of our struggling readers. And there's also a word knowledge inventory, which helps us to know where students are as spellers.
Wow. So what other type of assessment do we do? We do Ames Web as well, correct?
Yes,
Would you like to talk a little bit about that, Tara?
Absolutely. So there are 3 benchmarking periods. So every fall, winter, and spring, our students are given what's known as the RCBM, which is their reading comprehensive based measure. And so there are certain norms, and there are set criteria, if you will, where a student should be reading. And then they also take what's referred to as the maze, which basically gives us a gauge into how a student is comprehending at that particular fall, winter, or spring benchmark period.
And so Ames Web basically is a fluency check.
Yes.
And I know a lot of times people will say, well, just because they can read fast doesn't mean they're going to be able to comprehend well. But if my memory serves me correct, if they're fluent, odds are they're going to be able to comprehend because they're able to identify and pronounce words appropriately. So that's the thought process behind that. Lastly, the big question, the very big question. Do we teach kids to spell here in Springboro? I get that question a lot. People think we've forgotten about kids memorizing their multiplication facts, which is the numeracy aspect. But what about spelling? Do we teach kids to spell in Springboro?
Of course we do. But some of those philosophical mind shifts have taken place. Traditionally, all of us grew up, our teachers gave us a word list, say on Monday, and we took it home and we memorized it, and then we had to come back and take a test on Friday.
Right.
Research has begun to show, though, however, that rote process of learning to spell is not as effective in terms of their application in their writing pieces. So now it's commonly known as what's referred to as word study, where students investigate and they play around with word patterns, and so they're able to take words, break them apart, put them back together, but they're basically trying to learn and develop the knowledge of particular spelling word patterns.
And just to tag on to Mrs. Hunter, so instead of a teacher standing up in front and regurgitating that in this word, car, C makes the hard C sound, but in the word cell, the C makes the soft sound. Instead of the teacher saying that, what Mrs. Hunter was talking about, when students are investigating words, they're discovering those patterns for themselves. And we feel like word study ingrains those patterns much more than what a weekly end of the week spelling test might be. Because as we know, students may get their words correct on the Friday list, but turn around on Monday in their journal and they're misspelling the word that they just spelled on their list. So word study is a way to ingrain those patterns more strongly in our students.
And to take that one step further, we have to think about individual students. And contrary to popular belief, fairy dust does not fall from the sky and everybody learns to do the same thing at the same time. So teachers have to differentiate those spelling lists, well, not spelling lists, but those word family lists for the individual students. Some students are ready for more complex word study patterns, while other kids still do the basic and primary CBC type patterns. That's what they're ready for. So each teacher, through this word inventory knowledge that they gain when they give these word inventories to each student, they learn where those students are in relationship to those patterns, and then they can provide instruction on an individual basis and not as a group. So each child is learning at their rate and at their pace with the words that they are ready for.
Did you guys know rock stars were that smart? That amazes me. I didn't know rock stars were that smart.
Not a rock star, just a band.
Well, I would like to, first of all, thank all of you for coming today. I wanted the community to get to meet you. Not only are you nice people, but you're extremely intelligent people. And maybe the next time we have our talk show, we'll be able to talk a little bit more about perhaps the guided reading or the assessments that we do. There is a perception out there that we test all day long, and that's not what EPIC is all about. So we need to talk a little bit about how we use those assessments to better engage and prepare our students so that we can challenge them at the level they need to be at. So once again, thank all of you. I'd like to thank all of you for enjoying our show today. I hope you did. It's our first one, and we would like to invite you back to enjoy the EpicView again next month.